And this one carrying into the end zone about 4 yards deep. Here comes Nixon to the 5. Left hash marks 10, 15. Hits a hole hard. He's to the 25, 30. Breaks into the clear. Keyshawn Nixon is off to the races. It's Secretary of the Belmont. Down the split they come. No one will catch him. It's a touchdown. My goodness.
Came into the game weighing questionable with a groin injury. Didn't practice all week. And he just took it right up the gut, through the heart of the Minnesota Viking coverage unit.
All right. What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you'd like to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. If you'd like to text the show, you can send a text message to 865-658-5824. You know, I was going to do a pod today and was texting back and forth with Jacob from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast and was like, hey, dude, you free? He's like, yeah, man, let me walk the dog. So he hopped on here with us. Jacob, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing good, man. It kind of turned into an impromptu day off. So I just, I've been looking at mini camp started today, basically mandatory camp. So I was just, checking out the YouTubes, doing that sort of thing. And then, we just happened to connect. So good day. We can talk Packers.
Awesome.
Love it.
We've got a little bit of a schedule to go off of, but this was kind of planning on Jacob not being on here. So I'm going to try to run through this information real quick. And then I want to hear some of your take on camp, man. I know you've been following the updates like crazy. I'm eager to hear what's going on. I haven't had a chance to really dive into it too much. I know I've seen some comments come across the old Twitter bird there, and man, that hearing them talk about Luke Musgrave not looking much different than Christian Watson in the routes is like, whoa,
that's crazy.
Right? It's pretty
exciting.
Hey,
do you want to – is it okay if we real quick do a personal shout-out to Andy Herman, who announced on Twitter today that the guy is and the only – shouldn't say the only reason, but he has achieved the Packers fan dream, I think. Clayton, is that easy to say that? Like – I texted Clayton as soon as I saw this. Andy Herman has announced that he's officially basically leaving his quote-unquote job to now do his quote-unquote job, which is just working with the Packers, which, if you guys listen to this podcast, I think you're pretty in line with us that that's pretty much the dream of the dream, to be able to quit your job and go make a living doing anything with the Packers. I mean, that's kind of what we're doing here. Anyways, I didn't mean to steal your thunder there, Clayton, but I just
no, dude, great. No. I'm glad you said it because, Andy's one of those guys that I've listened to for a long time, and I actually tagged him in a tweet not too long ago and was just like, man, it's officially summer when you're getting camp updates from Andy Herman while you're grilling outside, right? And I just catching every one of his episodes. It's just a perfect example of hard work pays off. And some people hear that and they go, oh, hard work, my rear end, dude. You're talking about your favorite football team. No, dude, that dude does a podcast much like Ryan every day. The goal is every day. Never take a day off with the Pack a Day podcast. And just someone I've got the utmost respect for and really appreciate everything he does. So well-deserved, man. That's really the only thing to say. Let's do this, man. Let's dive into a little Jordan Love, Justin Fields talk, man. I found something here, Jacob. I'm going to share the screen, and I'm eager to get you to hear this. You may have already heard it, and that's okay if you had. It's about a 6-minute long clip here, gang, but I'm going to play it, and hopefully we don't get hit with any kind of copyright or anything. Obviously, I want to do a shout-out to where we got this audio from. That's the GM Shuffle. You guys know it's one of my favorite podcasts. I plug it on here all the time. It's Michael Lombardi, former GM in the National Football League, basically spent 35 years in the league. He was – if you guys heard one of the last episodes I did, I talked about, the West Coast offense and how it's intertwined with the 49ers and the Raiders. Well, Michael Lombardi was actually an intern, and he was driving Bill Walsh around for the 49ers way back in the day. He was just his scout/intern trying to get his foot in the door in the National Football League. And then later on, he was hired by Al Davis to work in his front office. So he got both sides of that little rivalry that was created. And he actually talks about it in his book, Gridiron Genius. But anyway, he talks about Justin Fields and Jordan Love. And I'm just going to share the screen here and play it. It was a phenomenal clip. I think you guys are really going to enjoy this. So let's go ahead and do that right now. Here we go. Let's listen to Michael Lombardi and Femi of MFA talk about Justin Fields and Jordan Love.
And the only way to do that is to actually play it. And for some of these quarterbacks, you're not good enough to skip the whole preseason. Like, you need to get those live reps and see those coverages and see all the different things and get comfortable with the offense. Now, for my guy, Justin Fields, at least he's now in year 2 of this offense with Luke Getsy.
3? Well, I mean, yeah, he's
year 2.
3 of his career.
Yeah, 3 of my career. But, year 2 for Getsy, he's going to take that step. Those were light years ahead. But Jordan Love, though, is the one I think is really interesting because he's been in this offense under Matt LaFleur. This is the guy that they drafted to be the successor to Aaron Rodgers, the 4-time MVP quarterback. And he's not in the same spot as the other guys. Hasn't quite played as many games as Justin Fields, but he's been in the league longer, and he's kind of started to grow and mature. It's kind of an old school situation here of a guy that gets to sit a few years before actually having to go out there and play. Do you think that we could see Jordan Love take that step and ultimately be a productive quarterback for the Packers?
Well, the one thing the Packers should know is what Jordan Love is good at doing and what he's not. And that's a battle that only takes time, and it takes experience. I mean, Luke Getsy understands in Justin Fields what he's good at doing, what throws he's good at making, and what situations he's comfortable in. And I think it's the same thing for Jordan Love. Not sure they know that about Sam Howell yet. I'm not sure they know that about Trey Lance yet, frankly. I'm not sure Kyle Shanahan has that idea nailed down. I do think Pittsburgh understands who Kenny Pickett is, so they can do that. And once you understand what the player's good at doing and what he's good at executing and what fits into his wheelhouse, then you could design an offense around that wheelhouse, around making him look better and improving him, making the game easier for him as the speed of the game continues. But I would say this, if you believe Jordan Love is light years ahead, if you believe he's buzz, then you should bet the Packers to win the North, and you should bet the Packers on the 7.5 total. Because when you break down the Packers and you take away the main fundamental question is who replaces Rodgers, the team would be a 13-win team typically if Rodgers were on it and they were playing their normal self. They would probably be a 10-win team. They would definitely be the favorite in the East. So if you look at this and say, I love Love. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to take that Buzz Lightyear step ahead. Then don't just stop with the thought. Go to the window and say, I'm going to take the Packers over 7.5. I'm going to take the Packers to win the North because you're going to get good odds on both those numbers. And so you have to have some how do you make money in the market or in the drafting or in the betting business? It's the same principles. Information, belief. Belief and information go together. I believe this player is going to excel, and because he's going to excel, I'm going to put my money on the team. The Packers are good on defense. They have enough defense. They're the best defensive team in the North. Woo! I don't think it's close. They're good in the kicking game with the returner Nixon. I mean, they've improved in that area, and with Rich Bisaccia coaching them. So they're good there. Their offensive line is somewhat experienced if they get Bakari back of the Ari back. So they've got that. They've got 2 really good running backs in Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. They're young at receiver, granted. But this is not a team devoid of talent. This is the most talented team absence the quarterback. The comedy is people are more than willing, like yourself, to make that bet on Justin Fields. Why? I don't know. I don't know what they've seen other than great running back. But people are willing to make that bet. No one's willing to make it on the Packers.
Well, let's pump the brakes. I haven't made any bets on the Chicago Bears and my guy Justin Fields.
Other than the MVP for Fields. We saw you at the window. We have pictures of it.
I want to see those photos because that wasn't me.
We have it. This is not the Zapruder film. This isn't been. No, this is. We have it.
Yeah. Are we going to Charlotte to go play horse, or what are we doing? I think the thing with obviously with Fields, people expect him to take another step in that offense. The Packers.
What step did he take? What step did he take last year? I mean, answer that question. What step in the passing game did Justin Fields take last year?
Was he not better in the second half of the season versus the first half of the season? He got better, did he not?
No.
You don't think he got better?
He wasn't. He wasn't good at all. He wasn't good at all. He threw it on an average 22 times a game. He was not good at all, Femi. If you watch the tape, he couldn't make throws. The Detroit game, he gives them the game with the interception. The guy's a turnover machine. 91 sacks, 29 fumbles. I mean, he's won less games than Davis Mills, who you would be in complete disgust of. Davis Mills' numbers passing are better than Justin Fields. It's not even close. This logic, well, he's played better in the second. Well, I can't find it. I think he's a horrible thrower. Will he get better? I'll see.
I mean, I know you don't love QBR, but the second half of the season, he had one of the top 5 QBRs in the league.
Oh my
you can shake your head, but that's
hang
a fact.
on that number.
You can shake your head, but that's a fact.
I've seen games. I've posted this on. I've seen games where the team got killed and the quarterback's QBR is great. Like, if you want to hang on that, go ahead.
I'm not saying it's everything. I'm not saying it's everything,
Watch
but
the game.
But I don't think he's devoid of being able to play. Like you're talking about him like he should be QB too.
He's a good running back. I'll acknowledge he's a good running back.
Do you think he should be a starting quarterback in the NFL?
I think he should have competition. I think if Caleb Williams was coming out, he wouldn't be the quarterback of the Bears. Woo! That's how much I think.
Well, he's not, so he is. I mean, we're going to see what he does in 2023. Like I'm a believer of Justin Fields. I think that he can take that step in year 3 here. Now that he's in the offense, he's got some talent around him. Like, it's not all just the talent.
I love that.
But you need good players.
That was the problem. He had no talent last year, but his QBR was better, though. Without that talent, his QBR got better. I love him. He's so good. I can't wait. Give him the MVP right now.
Says a lot about him that he was productive with no players around him.
Bro, I'm telling you right now, man.
Wow.
Gold. Absolute gold. I heard that while I was work. And I'm telling you, dude, I was rolling. Now,
hey,
go ahead.
I'm not a big Mike Lombardi fan, but that just it's just good content right there.
I meet more people who don't like Michael Lombardi than people who do. And I always throw out this kind of warning, if you will, when I talk about Michael Lombardi. The first thing I always say, Jacob, is listen, he's brash, he's rude. He's described himself. He said, I'm a short, fat Italian. I have short fuse, and that's just how I am, right? But, man, the dude, he has so much football knowledge. Jacob, if you're looking for a book to read or an audio book, Gridiron Genius is so good. Anyway, I don't want this to be a big Michael Lombardi promotion, but I just wanted to share that because that's how he feels about, Justin Fields and Jordan Love. And you know what he said about Jordan Love? I think he hit the nail on the head. It's like if you think Jordan Love can be a good, serviceable NFL quarterback, bet the over. And it's exactly what we talked about the other night. It's going to come down to, what can he do good? I just got through watching the Kurt Warner clip of, the part 1 and part 2. If you haven't seen that, Jacob, go check it out. He breaks down Jordan Love's tape. And there was way, way, way more positive that Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame quarterback, had to say about Jordan than negative. And, mainly decision-making, getting the ball out on time. When he does plant his back foot, he's extremely accurate. He really impressed a first ballot Hall of Famer. So the question is, what can he do good, right? Can he drive the ball down the field with power? That's going to determine how vertical you want to go, or at least how often you want to go vertical. We've seen some shots today, and I'm sure you'll talk about it here in a minute, going deep to Romeo Dobbs in OTAs today, just showing off that arm strength. But how fast can he process information? What I gained from the Kurt Warner video is he can process information very quickly. How mobile is he? Can he run the RPR like we talked about? Now, I'm not suggesting Matt LaFleur will be as excited about that as I would. You want to protect a guy. You don't want to put him in harm's way, but you can run the RPR and still protect your quarterback. And, do you want to maximize that pre-snap motion, which we talked about, the touchdown to interception ratio, 4-1 with pre-snap motion and 2-1 without it. But what do you think about that, Jacob? Him, a little bit of Justin Fields bash and a little bit of I wouldn't call it Jordan Love praise, but I think you definitely didn't hear him say, no, I haven't seen it, right?
Yeah, look, like I said earlier, I'm not necessarily a Michael Lombardi fan, but I do respect him. It's one of those guys where it's like, like anybody, if you don't necessarily like the person, but you listen to what they have to say and you understand and you're like, maybe I'll take it with a grain of salt, but I do know that he's done his research. He's done his due diligence. Maybe, I respect it. So it's definitely encouraging, and it's wonderful to see. I mean, it's just Justin Fields, God, I'm just sorry, but the Bears, they suck. I got a guy that I don't really spend too much on Twitter, just because I just hate it. I hate social media in general. I logged on today, and then one random Bears fan. I don't get any interactions on Twitter. I had one Bears fan that has like a really large following. He like quote tweeted something I had said about. I don't honestly remember what it was, but I just thought in my head, man, you guys are so desperate. Like you just.
Oh, it's bad, dude.
It's kind of. I almost feel bad, but I don't. So Go ahead, Bears fans. Go ahead and fight and fuss all you want. It's just that's all the way that you can be.
Absolutely. What got me too about what Lombardi said was, he said the Packers are the most talented team in the North, and the thing about Michael Lombardi, he will screw up names, he will screw up divisions.
When he said Bakhtari, and
he said
Bakhtari, and I'm like,
dude, he screws up his own grandchildren's name. Like, it's hilarious. But once you get past that and understand, okay, look, this dude, the amount of knowledge he has on the game of football it really is phenomenal. But he said, just one thing he pointed out how Femi immediately said, in the second half of the season, he had a great QBR. And it reminded me of how these Justin Fields fans are cherry picking. Listen, he may turn out to be a great quarterback. I'm not sitting here saying there's no way Justin Fields won't be a good quarterback. Yeah. But from what we've seen, if you're going to try to convince me, hey, look, he's shown he can be a good quarterback, you're kidding yourself. And they cherry pick the stats that, we seen that one stat which Ryan absolutely roasted Bears fans, and I was here for it. It was like, why did you leave out the last two games?
Only 2 games.
It was like like week 10 to week 15, and he was like, what happened to the first 10? What happened to the last 2? Like, that's the cherry picking that Michael was talking about for sure. So let's do this, man. I had a listener shoot me a message. I want to answer this real quick, and I want to get into some of your camp takes. Okay, so just bear with me here. I definitely want to respond here. They have not given me their name, and I will respect that. I've gotten several questions from them, and it's been a really, really good conversation. So we're going to refer to them as the anonymous listener, I guess. But here's what they said. They said, okay, here's some questions for the podcast. Like I said, I'm new to this, and I hope that this doesn't sound dumb. Can any running back act as a halfback or fullback? And what's the difference? Are they just locations on an offensive formation or something specific to the player themselves? Another one, what is your order of operations in identifying offensive formations? Do you look at the location of the quarterback, then the receivers, etc.? When I watch football, I still just see 2 lines of guys running into each other, then run or throw. I want to be able to see the plays and be able to tell what the team was trying to do. Thanks for the encouraging questions. Thanks for encouraging the questions. They had asked me before I should do a separate pod to where I break down just the simplicity of the game, kind of start, from scratch. And what I suggested is, hey, I definitely don't want to talk down to people. If you got a question, just fire the question over. And I thought this was a pretty cool one. So I'll tell you this too, whoever the listener is, anonymous. All right. I do not watch the game live and find myself going, oh, man, that was 11 personnel. That was this, that. I watch the game just like a fan, right? But I'm taking notes of what went well. And then when I go back and look at the notes, now I look at the all 22 and I go, okay, what were they doing? What formation? So don't feel like you should watch the game by trying to find every little detail live. That'll make the experience miserable. But anyway, about the fullback. So can any running back, these are some of the questions they ask, can any running back act as a halfback or fullback? Yes, but it's not ideal, okay? So what you've got to understand is, where did the fullback terminology come from, right? And it was way back in the day. And basically a fullback is exactly what it sounds like. It was a big back. It was a big back that was going to block. So you had a fullback. Hey, look, I try not to be politically correct on this podcast. So we'll just say it was a fat back. All right, that's a fullback. This is somebody who's been eating the prime rib burgers like I just ate downstairs about 10 minutes ago. So I apologize if I'm burping on the podcast, but it is what it is. So a fullback means a bigger back who typically run blocks. A halfback is a smaller back, exactly what it sounds like, right? Who carries and catches, more times than not. Then you got the H-back, which is basically a hybrid tight end / fullback that's primarily a blocker. Now, any of these positions can turn into a running back or a receiver at any point, but that's kind of how it lays out. Now, are they just locations on the formations? Typically, yes, as simple as that sounds. Like Mike Allstott's a great example. Did you ever watch Mike Allstott play, Jacob? Are you too young?
Mike Allstott is my all-time favorite running back / I guess you have to call him a fullback, but that guy is, one of my favorites of all time. That's why I was so happy when we drafted Eddie Lacy, because I thought that, that's our new Eddie Lacy. But whatever. Yeah. I love him. Love Mike Allstott.
So when Mike Allstott came in the league, gang, he was a fullback, right? But many times later in his career, he was placed at halfback. So to answer your question, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, even though he was typically a fullback, just because now there's no fullback in the formation and he's the only back, he's the lone setback, that makes him the tailback or the halfback, right? So they can play multiple positions in that regard. Tailback is more of a modern term. And it's really referring to halfback. You hear somebody say tailback. A lot of times they will say T, and that's referring to the T receiver, which is the tailback. Just like you'll have an F receiver, a Y receiver, all that stuff. It's just one syllable as opposed to multiple syllables. Now, they asked what's my order of operation for identifying offensive formations. I'm going to rattle through this real quick. The first thing I look at is personnel. Okay, personnel, because that dictates what what defense is on the field. Are they in a base package? Are they in a sub package? Are they in nickel? Are they in quarter? On and on and on. The second thing I do is quarterback positioning. That's going to determine whether the quarterback is silent in the play call itself, right? Because if they're in a gun, you're going to say gun. If they're in a pistol, you're going to say pistol. So it'd be 11 pistol, right? Or 11 gun. Now, if they're not in a gun or a pistol, then you just say ace. You just say I. You just say, whatever the formation is, and you don't include the quarterback. So quarterback positioning is next. Number 3, formation. Is it gun? Is it ace? Is it I, et cetera, like I just said? Number 4, the tight end / halfback positioning. The tight end side is always the strong side. So if they say strong right, what you're telling everyone in the huddle, everyone that's watching or listening, you're saying, okay, if it's strong left, the tight end is on the left side of the formation. You get that out of the way right off the bat. Then you're going to label any kind of motion next. This is step 5. I label motion or a shift, Z motion, Y motion, F shift, whatever it might be. Number 6, the final step is the play. Is it a zone right? Is it a power left? Or insert whatever route combination it is. So if it's a passing play, each route will go from left to right. Okay, so from the quarterback's perspective, as we say, Jacob, that Madden camera view, right? You go from left to right, your receivers, and then you go to your backfield. Okay, so an example, like, just to rattle one off. Again, in order: personnel, quarterback positioning, formation, tight end / halfback positioning, label the motion, final step is the play, and then on the passing play, from left to right is a route combo. So just one example would be 11 gun, doubles on, strong right, snag dagger, T leak, halfback weak. Okay, that tells everything about it. You got your personnel, your formation, your doubles on is the formation itself. You talked about your quarterback placement because it was gun. And then you have your strong right, your tight ends on the right side of the field. And then you get into your route combination. If you're not going to use the archaic style, which I typically like, but there's so many different complex route combinations today, they've got nicknames, then you could go, snag dagger, T leak, halfback weak, that type of thing. So that's how that works. Hopefully that answered your question. Sorry if that took too long, Jacob. I appreciate your time being on here, but I definitely wanted to answer that for them. So let's do this, man. Let's get into some camp talk, because I know I seen you in the Discord chat, and bro, when you started posting in the Discord chat and then I posted back and you immediately hit back, it was just like, yeah, somebody else is feeling me right now, dude. This is exactly I'm getting excited for football when you're seeing these camp updates, because, guys, this is mandatory mini camp today. The first question I got for you, and hopefully you have the answer, and this is kind of going off cuff. Was Jair there today? I'm pretty sure he was
there. Rasul was there. The only person that was not there, and shocker.
Don't you say it.
Jonathan Garvin.
Oh, my God. Are you serious, bro?
I don't understand. Matt LaFleur apparently said that anybody that has not been at camp or specifically today has a good reason. So I don't want to sit here and like call this guy out in case something like horrible, I don't know what's going on in his
Right,
life.
yeah.
I have no idea. Maybe something really, really bad is going on. And, God help me. I am so sorry that I'm calling you out, bro. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it just does seem very weird that a fourth or fifth string type of guy would not show up to any of the not mandatory OTAs. And then, the mandatory ones. It's I watch a lot of, obviously Packers coverage, and no one has been able to come up with a good explanation as to why that would be. And I don't get it. I don't understand it. I never will. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. All right, man. One of the things that stood out to me today, and, like you said, hopefully nothing is going on in Garvin's personal life or whatever. I've read nothing to suggest that, and you guys know we wouldn't even mention it if that were the case. It sounds like maybe he's wanting to try to get some kind of security as far as a contract. I don't see how it makes sense, but, who am I to judge? Now, Andy Herman said earlier, he said, love to Musgrave over the middle, Rudy Ford with fantastic coverage, and even gets a hand on the ball. But Musgrave keeps concentration, hauls in the catch, and turns upfield. Nice play by 88. Jacob, when I did the Luke Musgrave Chalk Talk breakdown of his college tape, bro, I seen that over and over and over. His ability to concentrate on the ball with defenders around him, and it's just like he has a natural ability to shield the defender, to secure the catch. He's not the best yak guy. We all know that. Now, he's got blazing speed, but he's not the dude like Tucker Kraft that's going to run through someone. But when I seen that tweet, I got really excited. What have you heard? Do you know of anything about Luke Musgrave today that kind of caught your attention, or is there anybody else that's kind of caught your attention today?
So yeah, basically today it was just kind of the fluidity of what Musgrave can do, and I have been kind of a sucker of headlines or whatever, and I've seen Luke Musgrave. I've seen the amount of coverage over how fluid he is and how like he can move his hips in a great way. There was another tweet that said that basically Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave basically move like the same beast of a man, which, I mean, if that is true, that's unbelievable. We actually at the PFP podcast, we did a live group draft last night of Underdog Fantasy, and we talked about how I'm going to edit that and try to, because guys were a little funky with their words last night, so I'm going to try to edit that a little bit.
Somebody been in the sauce, huh?
Oh, they were all in the sauce, very much. And but we agreed that Luke Musgrave is basically like that may be the steal of literally like any kind of fantasy draft you're in, because the guy, he's going to be a number one tight end. And I don't know exactly how number one tight end, because if he's sharing snaps with DeGuara, which, by the way, a side note, DeGuara today made an amazing one-handed grab over the shoulder. I mean, just like a Odell type thing where it was amazing. It was really, really good to see. And guys might be sleeping on DeGuara. That I was going to say that could be one of the most sleepy picks of what the Packers breakout players could be, because this guy's been in the system for at least now a couple of years, and he's the lead dog as far as the hierarchy goes. And he is, a lot of people just see him as an H-back, but I really do think that he has more of a complete tight end than a lot of guys are giving him credit for. So anyways, that's just my 2 cents on that. But some other stuff that we talked about, like we said, Ja was there.
Hey, let me say this real quick. Yeah. Before you get into that, you were talking about Musgrave, and this kind of came to mind, and it's a good teaching moment. And this is something that I've just learned. So when you're talking about a Y, right, your traditional Y tight end, and you talk about him potentially being a number one tight end, another role that I see him playing is what we call F. Okay. And I'm just going to read the definition here. What's the difference between a F and a Y tight end? There's the Y tight end, which is the name for the inline tight end, the guy who is on the line of scrimmage attached to the line. Okay, so that's your typical tight end, right? You probably see DeGuara in that role quite a bit. I'm sure you'll see Musgrave as well, but listen to this. And then there's the F tight end, who is comparable to the Z. So in a 12 personnel, he can typically play the Z. Now, the F is moved around the offense from slot receiver to fullback to even wide receiver on the boundary. That sounds like Luke Musgrave. I don't mean to cut you off, but I just wanted to point that out, that when you hear us talking Chalk Talk, you might hear us say Y or F. To me, from what I've seen and his physical makeup, Luke Musgrave would make an excellent F receiver or an F tight end where he can move around. But go ahead, Jake.
No, I mean that's exactly it. I mean the guy's 6'6". I believe that he was Ryan. I guess a little bit contradicted this, but I've read that he was the only tight end and maybe I don't want to say receiver that ran over 20 miles per hour at the Senior Bowl. So like, and then you watch some of these clips. You see this guy. I mean, he is definitely good at catching the ball and moving upfield very quickly, and it looks like a receiver. He just looks like a very, very tall, thick wide receiver, and that's amazing. And if we can get him, and then if you look at a lot of the blocking type stuff from the OT, or I'm sorry, the mini camps, Tucker Kraft, don't sleep on Tucker Kraft, guys. I'm just saying, we got 3 for the first time in a long time. Think about the fact that we have 3 potential starters at tight end between DeGuara, Kraft, and Musgrave. And I sent you guys a link of this. When people said that Kraft runs angry, I was like, what is that? I don't understand that. And then I saw him catch a ball and move upfield. yeah, the guy runs. And basically, I can put it like this: you would not pay me. You'd have to pay me a good $500,000 to go put my neck down and take that dude on. Like,
somebody's got to pay for the chiropractor, bro.
I was gonna say, like, legit amount of money. If I thought that maybe I could break my neck, give me $500,000. I think I'll figure it out. I'll try to do walking around in the boot. But
you mentioned earlier a tweet, and I found it. Zach Cruz was the one who put the tweet out. He put Christian Watson as a wide receiver and Luke Musgrave as a tight end are similar in terms of explosiveness and smoothness. Such effortless movement. So, yeah. That gets me freaking fired up. Yeah. Now, another play here. Andy Herman said Jordan Love with a dime to a blazing fast Christian Watson for a would-be 96-yard touchdown in 7-on-7. Guess who the closest defender was, Jacob?
Jair
Alexander. Yep. Bro, everything is pointing towards Christian Watson having a breakout year.
Now, I will say that could be concrete shoes because Jair and Rasul decided that they need a little more, off-season time. So they're probably dusting off the cobwebs there, but whatever.
A little extra sleepy time, that's all.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Next note, Jacob. Hit me with it.
Well, I guess Tyler Goodson would be another one. I watched a clip, I think maybe it was Andy Herman, and he just looks – oh, no, you know what it was? It was from Boz. If you guys ever want to – there's a guy on YouTube gosh, forgive me. It's Bozarowski or something like that. He's amazing. Really, really good dude. One of those guys that also, I think, quit his job recently to become a full-time Packers guy, which is really cool. Congrats, guy. But he had a really good clip of Tyler Goodson doing like a flat route, turning on a dime, catching the ball. I mean, just sticking that thing. And his exact quote was, "We already have an Aaron Jones, but it's nice to know we have an Aaron Jones backup." And he said that basically Goodson is going to be my RB3. I love Lou Nichols. I would love to see him catapult up, but it sounds like from the start, he is not great at catching passes out of the backfield, is what it sounds like.
Makes sense. I mean, there's got to be a reason, that he lasted as long as he did. We got William in the chat here. He said, why are we comparing Jordan Love to a running back? That's a great question. And then we've got William says the Packers are trying to duplicate the 49ers offense. Kittle equals Musgrave, right? The F tight end. Dwelly equals Kraft, the Y tight end. And then Juszczyk equals DeGuara, the H back. Dude, I hope you are right, William. I hope you're right, because I know all of us would lose our ever-loving mind if we see them shift into this Shanahan look as opposed to the McVay look. I would go ballistic, man. Appreciate you hanging out in the chat with us. Go ahead, Jacob. Next thing, though, bro.
I guess the next thing would be the apparently the Love-Dobbs connection is a real thing. And people need to take notice of that. Again, if you're looking at it through my eyes, which is the fantasy football, Dobbs is falling very far. So we have Dobbs, Jalen Reed, and Musgrave. Just you can get them basically in the lower depth of drafts, and I just don't understand why. Because you look at just if Jordan Love is even a top 15 quarterback, you have to account for where those yards are going. So that means they're going to go to at least 3 or 4 or 5 players. You have to draft these guys. I can't believe they're falling so far. And the way that it's funny to me because right now we've been seeing what have we always wanted in the offseason is Rodgers working with quarterbacks and with other skill players to really like hone their chemistry and all that kind of stuff. Now it's happening, and we're all just kind of like, whatever, it's fine. Like you're sleeping on what could be a really, really great team. And don't get me wrong, we could come on and we could crap the bed. I understand that. Like Love could be a complete bust, and it'll probably ruin Goody's career, to be honest. If he is a complete bust, it probably will, just because no one will let go of the fact that they let Rodgers go. And if especially if Rodgers goes to the Jets and he has any type of success, I'm talking anything, wins one playoff game and we don't make it to the playoffs, then they're going to be asking for people's heads. So
absolutely.
So
you were talking about Dobbs. Here's the shot here. The thing I'm gonna tell you what stands out to me here. But for those of you on the pod listening, we're gonna show this this shot here inside the practice that was open to media inside the Don Hudson Center. This is Jordan Love to Romeo Dobbs down the sideline. Love's gonna let it go from the goal line, right? And Dobbs down the sideline, bro. That's arm strength right there. I'm sorry. If you break it down, it was in the air 58 yards.
Before he even broke his stride.
Right. And that's the thing. Like when you watch Jordan let go of this ball, it looks effortless. Look at that. Like this is what Big Play Slay was talking about last year too. Like he looks like a little A-Rod back there. When you watch him let this ball go here, I mean, look at that. He's not overstriding. He's not putting everything into that.
No.
Bro. And the wrist action, it reminds you of 12. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. I know people are going to come at me and go, what are you talking about? I'm simply saying you see the arm strength there and enough touch on the deep pass too that it looked pretty nice to me, Jacob.
Yeah.
So in the chat here, let's see what we got. We got Dilo in the chat. Appreciate you dropping through, brother. Let's go. New Packers total access. Yeah, man, appreciate you swinging by. If you missed the first part, just rewind. If you haven't been here since we went live, you're going to love the first 10 minutes. Michael Lombardi absolutely annihilating Justin Fields. I'm here for it. So anything else you got there, Jacob, as far as from camp there, and any questions you guys got in the chat, we'll probably be on here for another 15 minutes or so. If you guys just want to fire a question or have a comment, we're just here to kind of hang out.
I actually did. So apparently Anders Carlson was there kicking. He went 2 for 3. I believe he missed one from like 47 out. I think he hit one from like 41, one from 42 or 43. And they missed the longest one, so not necessarily great to see. But obviously we talked about Jair and Razul being there, Garvin gone. Campbell apparently has looked really, really good in coverage.
Nice. Which
I'm all about that. And also Quay. Apparently Quay had some really good coverage of AJ Dillon on some flat routes. Looking really, really good, tight in there. And then also Nixon is returning kicks, but also Jalen Reed. So that's another aspect maybe we have to think about. I really doubt that anybody other than Nixon's going to be returning kicks, but it's nice to know we have a little bit of a backup if anything happens. So
absolutely. Here we got a tweet that went out from Matt Schneidman, and it's actually looks like it is. Let me make sure I've got the audio on for you guys. Let me try that again. It looks like we had Jair Alexander in the locker room after the OTA. So let me make sure we got some audio. We do. All right. Let's see what he had to say here. And I'll read the tweet. Like I said, this was Matt Schneidman. He said he's quoting Jair Alexander. At this point, I want to see what's best for the team. Dobbs caught a touchdown on me today. I gave him a hug almost. I was like, good stuff, man, because the year before he didn't catch anything on me. He also said he'll continue chirping Jordan Love. So just a little bit and that may be word for word what he said. I'm going to play it anyway. Let's see what he says here, Jake.
So Christian and Romeo was, keep doing what you're doing, because we're going to need y'all at the end of the day, I don't have, no one has ego here, there's no ego with me, I don't really, because at this point I want to see, the best for the team,
yep.
So I just told him, keep doing what y'all doing. Dobbs caught a touchdown on me today, and I gave him a hug almost, good stuff, man, because the year before he didn't catch anything, so.
Love it. All right.
I like that, dude. I do
too, man. I do too, bro. I wish he had been there for the voluntary stuff, but at the same time, man, you know how I stand on that, Jacob, and I understand I'm in the minority when it comes to Packer fans. If something's voluntary, I don't expect them there. I mean, like, if you want them there, then stop calling it voluntary. Oh, well, they worked that out with the CBA. Okay, cool. Then it's the equivalent to basically someone telling you, hey, we're not paying you today, but I need you to come into work. You better be here at work. But today's my off day. It doesn't matter. You should be in here and you're working for free. That's the way I see it. But I'm a business owner, and that's just kind of, I look at it through that lens.
As a GM of a restaurant, I completely understand that. Like, I can't ask somebody just to come in and just work.
But bro,
like, especially even when I know like they're my best employee. Hey, come in here and work for free. Work for free and show other people how you're really, really good. Because that's great for you, right? Like, no, dude, that's not how that works. And you have to take a step back and realize that that's kind of the situation. It's like we're expecting this guy to come in, work for free, train the others, make sure that they feel comfortable. No.
And as a Packer fan, dude, we want them sleeping in Lambeau Field every night, right? We want them there all the time. But
if it was, and I'll say this, if I was the head coach, saying what I just said, I'd get mad at him. I would, because they'd be like, you're a leader. You are an example as to what to do and what not to do. So I expect more from you because you got that money. But being, if it's anybody else, or honestly, if at the end of the day, if he says I put my foot in the ground and I'm not going to go there because he didn't pay me to go there, I'm going to go, yeah, we didn't pay him. Why the F would we? Why would we? Like, you can't ask somebody to do your craft for free. It's just not. It's not fair.
Yeah,
not fair.
So Matt Schneidman today at practice said Rasul Douglas used to love talking with Aaron Rodgers in between plays / drills. Him and Aaron had a lot of respect for each other. Said today they caught him chopping it up with new QB1 now. So it's cool to see them really embrace Jordan, man. I may look back on this 8-9 months from now, Jacob, and go, wow, I was way off base. But I'm telling you, dude, something feels good about this Jordan Love. Like, I am not going to be surprised if he comes out this year and he is a top 10 quarterback. Something just freaking feels right about this dude. When you see that deep bomb, when you hear a Hall of Famer talk about him in the only 2 starts we've seen, granted, it's a very small sample size, but when you see Kurt Warner talking about him planting his foot, delivering accurate passes, good, quick, high-low decisions, meaning they were running a high-low concept, whether it was a wrap concept or whatever, him just being able to make the decision very, very quick, know where his side adjustments are, and being able to lead that offense. This feels good. You see arm strength, you see quick release, you see accuracy, you see decision-making, and we know he's got the leadership, that quiet leadership. I love that approach.
Yeah. And I think it's definitely something you should look back on. When I can't remember exactly which podcast Ryan did, but when you look at some of the scouts, people, for whatever reason, they threw so much shade on Jordan Love because we drafted him while we had Aaron Rodgers. But there was also people that were in that draft that said, this is the next Patrick Mahomes. Do you understand that? Like, the fact now that we're just all of a sudden being like, oh, I guess maybe he could be good. We had people comparing him to Patrick Mahomes. And the fact that for whatever reason he slid to the second round or to late first, all of a sudden people started just shoveling poop on this guy as if he was the worst thing that's ever. And Ryan said, I don't understand if it's just the product of being in Green Bay with the Green Bay media and having literally 30 years of just nothing but good quarterback praise. But for whatever reason, they've decided that Jordan Love is bad. And I don't think that that's a good a conclusion, because the guy just seems like he's doing everything right. I'm not going to say here that he's going to be a Pro Bowl quarterback next year, but it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me.
Yeah,
at all.
I agree. Matt Schneidman also tweeted out, Matt LaFleur, ahead of today's mandatory minicamp practice, said there's perfect attendance. There are a couple of guys excused for personal matters, but everybody else is here. So that probably is a personal matter, it sounds like. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, I don't want to say it's good news. Hopefully everything's okay.
Right. That's literally what I was saying, is like, I hope that I hope and I don't hope there's a reason. Right.
Right. Absolutely. We got John in the chat said Love is way ahead of Fields. If you were to take the small sample size and kind of average it out, yeah, I think you're right, man. And some of the throws he made in preseason, we want to keep that interception total down. Obviously, you want at least a 2-1 there. Heck, if he comes out and goes 3-1 touchdown to interception, Jacob, we're looking at 10 wins. I'm telling you, it's going to be the key this year. All right, man. Do you have anything else? I'm going to read a listener email if you don't, or when you're done. Is there anything else you want to hit on before we wrap this thing up?
No, just I'm like as always. I'm very excited about this team. We actually did record a PFP draft last night. We did a best ball draft on Underdog. Like I said, I just have to edit a little bit because the guys are a little sauced up. So had to make sure we don't let any F-bombs go out there, but there's not a lot, just maybe 2 or 3. But I want to make sure that Ryan, has it's a family friendly podcast. So we're going to do that. And we're going to be doing a lot of those drafts and just guys, like I said, draft Packer players, Jordan Love, Watson, Jalen Reed. These guys are falling. Musgrave are falling in the draft, and who knows? They could be the best pick of your draft, 100%, because these guys are all going to possibly get 20% target share, which is crazy.
No doubt. John in the chat said Love lit it up today in practice, and man, that's what we seen too. It looked like it was a good practice for Love, and thank God the media was there too. That way, these guys can stop saying, "Well, I haven't really seen much." So anyway. We got a great listener. He was actually in the chat for the last live stream we did on Sunday evening with Ryan and Jacob, and it's Andy Monday. This is what he said. He made a comment in the chat, and I had to ask, is that a real name? I can never tell when people are being serious in the chat, but he was being serious. So he explained to me in an email. Here's what he said. Clayton, thanks for reading my comments on the live feed. Regarding my reference to John Haddle and Mossy Cade, I was trying to point out that Cowherd, meaning Colin Cowherd, is a fool to think that our current roster is bad enough to be on the precipice of disaster like the 70s and 80s teams. In 1974, Dan Devine was desperate to land a top quarterback after his disastrous trade from Jim Del Gazzo from the Dolphins the year before. Del Gazzo was the backup for the undefeated 72 Dolphins. Devine gave up second rounders in 1974 and 75. Del Gazzo played 3 games in 73 and had a quarterback rating in the 30s. Sound like me out there QBing, boy. Devine traded for 34-year-old John Haddle with the Rams, giving them our 1975 first, second, and third round picks.
Jesus.
That dude was on the pop, bro. My God. As well as 1976 first and second rounders. Haddle was the NFC Player of the Year in 73 with LA. Haddle only played in 1974, Devine's last season, in 1975, Bart Starr's first season as coach. Haddle's Green Bay stats over 2 seasons, just over 3,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, 29 interceptions. The dude was colorblind too, evidently. Just over 50% completion percentage and under 6 yards per attempt. Green Bay's 5 draft picks given up, 1975 overall picks, 9, 28, and 61, and 1976 overall picks, 8 and 39. And Haddle wasn't even on the team in 76. You wonder why we slipped back in the 80s, guys. That's, great digging, Andy. He also said, thankfully, Starr unloaded him for Lynn Dickey. That's a big upgrade, right?
Yeah.
But that trade with Houston cost Green Bay a 4th in 76 and a 3rd in 1977. Dickey played most of 1976 poorly, got injured in November of 1977, probably the worst Green Bay offense ever, and didn't return as a starter until December of 79. That starting quarterback ratings from 73 to 79, never reaching higher than 59.9 for a season. Until Dickey's 3 games at the end of the 1979 season, getting to 71.7. Mossy Cade was a cornerback. I swear, Mossy Cade, man, he lives back home in Kentucky, dude. He lives right at the base of the holler, and he's got a hell of a cabbage patch up there. I'm just telling you right now. Mossy Cade was a cornerback originally drafted by San Diego in 1984 as the 6th overall pick. He opted to play in the USFL instead. Green Bay traded its 1986 first rounder, pick number 14, for Cade in 1985. He played poorly in 85, but had 5 picks in 86. He was cut in May of 1987 after his arrest for raping his aunt in November of 1985. He might have been from Kentucky, which was during I don't mean to make a lot of. Don't get me wrong, but that's some strange stuff there, dude.
That one just let's just kind of slip that right into his bio.
Yeah. Goodness gracious, what a horrible
Right,
human being, dude. Which was during his first season with the Packers. Colin Cowherd, do any of these roster disasters sound like the current Green Bay Packers? Do you think players wanted to play for Green Bay in those years with those moves? Tell me how Goody stacks up in comparison so far. You ignorant windbag. Clayton, thank you for your time and dedication. My source is linked below, and he's got a archive from jsonline.com that talks about all that stuff. That was Andy Monday. Andy Monday, you brung some facts there, bro. Well, woo! Like, listen, the rape part is extremely sad. I don't want to make a lot of that. I want to make sure.
It's very shocking.
The ant thing really threw me for a loop. I was like, what? Like, so Mossy Cade, man, I went from thinking this is old country boy, probably a good dude. Not the case. Not the case at all. Old Mossy Cade. But thank you, Andy, for the email, dude. That's a lot of information in that email.
That's a lot of information.
Jacob, dude, I love our listeners, man. Like, seriously, they're
way more smarter than we are. It's crazy.
Dude, way smart. You kid? When they figure out all they got to do is get a microphone and they can blow by me, bro, it's gonna be over. That's a fact. Let's see here in the chat before we get out of here. John says the Packers, quote, opted to run it back for one more season with Rodgers. The deal for Rodgers would have included 3 first-round picks, Drew Lock, and Jerry Jeudy. He added. Now, this is where I part ways with a lot of people. In when I say part ways, I don't mean part ways. I disagree respectfully with Packer fans. I try not to be overly critical of Goody, right? But the people that never say anything bad about Goody, it's like he's never done anything wrong. You're not going to convince me that it was a good thing that he turned down that haul of picks, if all that is correct, if it all is accurate. John, I'm assuming you've read that, and I completely trust you. 3 first-round picks, Drew Lock and Jerry Jeudy. We could have threw Drew Lock out the back of Lambeau Field, have him sweep a floor, right? But
shoveling snow.
If you turn down 3 first-round picks and then you signed him to a $150 million contract, which you guys heard me talk about that contract over and over and over, going, listen, nobody knows the optional aspect of this contract. And everybody said, oh, whatever, Clayton says, blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as he was traded, it was like, I thought you said he wasn't Mr. 50 million. You're not listening to what I'm saying. Look at his cap hit for the Jets. Look at his cap hit. It's $1.5 million. Look at his cap hit over the next 3 years for the Jets if he plays that long. It's like in the $30 million range, 37, then it jumps to 40. He never reached that 50 million. The optional aspect of that contract was freaking brilliant. And that's the point I was trying to get across to people is like, he's never going to see $50 million against the cap for the Packers. But then we turn around and trade him. It was like, you bought high, you sold low, and literally, I mean, you turned down 3 first-round picks. Now, listen, I'm not sitting here going, hindsight's 2020, Goody, you're a moron. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is if you're one of the people that never criticizes Goody as if he's been the most perfect GM, please, man, be realistic. If you could rewind time, what would you have done, Jacob? You'd have took that haul and moved on.
So me personally, I was gonna say, so everybody knows if you listen to the podcast, I don't think Jordan Love is going to be the next Aaron Rodgers, but I'm willing to learn. So I've been willing to learn and move on from Rodgers for a while. So I'm not probably the best person to ask that question because I guess I don't know what Goody was doing because to me that does not make sense.
It sounds like it came from up top, doesn't it?
It sounds like, yeah, exactly. It sounds like somebody that just seems like such a meeting of minds that like you were so just nonchalant, like trying to just smooth over some bad pavement there. And yeah, we probably should have cut Rodgers or just went all in. And I don't really quite know I don't know what I still think. Like right now, I'm glad that we're moving forward, but you look at the amount of money we wasted. I mean, my God, it like you said, it just seems really, really like a waste of money, especially if, like you said, if Goody knew that this was kind of what was on the horizon, if they knew that this was kind of in the cards, right? Why would you make that deal, man? Like, why? It just seems like it seems like either he was trying to save his job for the fans and knew his butt was covered by the front office, or something along those lines, because I don't get it. It does not look like a Goody move. It looks like a halfway, move.
It kind of feels
move.
It kind of feels to me like they all met, right? And it was Mark Murphy, Russ Ball, Brian Gutekunst, and Matt LaFleur. And it kind of sounds to me like they went around the table. We know now with Rodgers' comments that Russ Ball wanted to keep him around. We know Matt LaFleur has an absolute man crush on Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And we know now that Goody did not want Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
And, of course, Mark Murphy, what's he said over and over, Aaron's done some great things for this organization. He's kind of stayed neutral. So it sounded like they went around the room and voted, and it was 2-1 minus Murphy. And Murphy was probably a push and said, "Hey, look, let's bring him back." And who handles the contracts? Russ Ball, right? So that would be my best guess as to everything how it unfolded. But I'm completely on board with you, Jacob. It seems like something kind of happened over top of that. But man, when we went live, I did not expect us to get on the Rodgers topic, but it's so cool, man. That's
we're on an hour.
Yeah, exactly. That's why live listeners are awesome, man. So we appreciate everybody in the chat. I know there were several people. I think we still got, like 16 watching live right now. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We're going to get out of here, but appreciate William in the chat. Appreciate Dialo, John, all you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andy Monday, for the email. The anonymous listener, thank you for the text. Keep them coming. Any question? Hopefully that answered your fullback question. Again, fullback was created back in the day when you had a smaller back, which was the halfback, and then you had a bigger back, which is the fullback. Think of this. Think of the Lombardi era, right? And what did you have? You had Paul Hornung as the halfback / tailback, whatever you want to call it. And then you had, of course, Mr. Jim Taylor as your fullback. So that's kind of how that came about. But again, someone like Mike Allstott, you see me and Jacob man crushing over, dude. That dude was phenomenal. He was one that later in his career, they just put him back there in that single back.
That was my first jersey I ever got in my life, was Mike Allstott.
And that Tampa Bay jersey when they first dropped, oh my God.
My little brother, it was, we all thought, we're like, God, we're diehard Packer fans, and don't get me wrong, but I loved Mike Allstott. He was my favorite running back still to this day. You watch his highlights and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Like, how is this dude alive?
If there is anyone hearing our voice right now that's going, I've never seen Mike Allstott, stop what you're doing. Go to YouTube and type in.
Where did you go to college? Was it Purdue or Notre Dame? Was it? He was.
It wasn't Notre Dame. I don't remember who.
It was maybe Purdue, or like it was some random college where you're like, this dude has no business. He like a freaking bowling ball. Like he does not stop. He just keeps going. They just repel off of him, and it is really fun to watch. Just watching it.
Go check it out for sure. And John, appreciate you in the chat, man. It was fun. It was a good show because you guys made the show, man. It's how it always works. So we're gonna get out here, Jacob. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me, buddy. And we'll do it again. I think the plan is either Saturday or Sunday. We'll do another kind of weekly recap like we've been doing. Would love to have you back on. I know the listeners love having you on Packers Total Access with us. So we're out of here, guys. Thank y'all so much for making us a part of your evening. For those of you listening to this on the pod, this will probably drop. I'd say we'll drop it this evening, so it'll be ready for you on the work day there Wednesday. And we appreciate y'all making us a part of your day. Go do me one favor. Go to my Twitter account. I've got a tweet pinned at the top of the page for our buddy Ryan, whose family had a horrible tragedy. If you guys are looking for something good to sow good seed into and be a blessing to someone, there's a family without their mother right now that could use a lot of help.
Their mother and their grandfather on the same day.
Absolutely, so just a horrible tragedy. But again, don't end it on a down note. Yeah. But if you're looking for an opportunity to help someone else, it's a great chance to do that. So just go check out my Twitter. So we're out of here. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack go.
Sort of protective tape or wrap on that thumb next time we see Rodgers.
3rd and goal. Prescott stands in, delivers. It is intercepted in the end zone. Rudy Ford has a convoy. Rudy Ford with a huge play for Green Bay. First interception as a Packer, and it comes in the end zone at a big time.